Yes, we can. I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that. So we'll be starting the webinar today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I know this is a day a lot of us must have been looking forward to, and I can assure you the day has finally come. And the institute has deemed it fit to organize a wonderful webinar like this, and I can assure you that you're going to learn a lot of things. And I welcome everyone to this webinar. This is Gr8t Biotek Institute. Will be introducing us to the webinar and the institute as a whole. So this webinar, as many of us have seen on the flyer, we have the topic as the future of functional foods and precision nutrition. You know, a lot of us will really don't know much about functional food, but this time around, our guest speaker has prepared well, to talk to us more about functional foods. And when it comes to precision nutrition, many a times a lot of people, have been administered different dietary intake, but we see that many a times some of these things do not work for the general population, hence the need for precision nutrition. So I welcome you all to this wonderful webinar. This webinar is organized by the Great Words Biotech Institute, as you can all see on your screen there. So I welcome you once again. My name is Sheon John Ibrahim. I'm the anchor of today's webinar. I want you to follow closely. I want you to stay put. Just avoid distraction. Don't let anything distract you. We have a lot that we are going to learn today, and our guest speaker is here with us. She's prepared to take us today. So I will be introducing us to the institute that has organized this webinar. This is Great Walls Biotech Institute, an institute battered out of passion to train and nurture young scientists across the field of biological and biomedical sciences. And we don't only do this alone, we do this in collaboration with some of our senior colleagues who have gone ahead, who have achieved more, who have more experience. And that is to tell you we are open for collaboration. We are open for collaboration. And if you want to join us, you can check the institute page on LinkedIn, and you can see the logo on your screen. You can type Great Words Biotech on LinkedIn. You're going to find a link whereby you can register to join us. Then after registration, what you do will be communicated to you. So we have different departments that cut across our institutes. We have the Department of Bioinformatics, we have the Department of Environmental Biotechnology, we have the Department of Agriculture and Food Biotechnology, we have the Department of Industrial and Food Biochemistry. We also have the Department of Medical Biotechnology. These are some of the departments we have in this institute, and we have the heads of these departments present at the meeting. So if you're interested in joining any of the meeting, any of the departments, you can search the institute's name on LinkedIn, and there you are going to find a registration form you're going to fill to join us. I encourage you to do that. So, like I said earlier, my name is Mr. Shion John Ibrahim. I'm the anchor of today's webinar. So now I would like to introduce us to the guest speaker. I know a lot of us would have seen the guest speaker on the flyer. We've seen some of the things, the little details about her, but I'm going to read to us some of her past achievements, some of the things she has done as a researcher. So just hold on as it is projected to the screen. Please, can we have it? Okay, Miss Emmy Grace citation. I'm going to read a citation to us there. You're going to know more about her. You're going to know some of the things she has done as a researcher. You know, she's a researcher when it comes to food, science, when it comes to nutrition, and that's why the institute has deemed it fit to invite somebody of high reputation like this. So I just want you to follow closely. Don't get distracted. Let's get the very best from this, because we need more researchers in this field when it comes to functional foods and precision nutrition. So can I have the slide? Miss Emmy Grace, please let's follow closely. Miss Emmy Grace graduated with a distinction in a BSc and MSc degree at Women's College, Chennai, India. She's currently a PhD student at Women's College, Chennai, India. She's an assistant lecturer. She's the founder of NutriGo, which has conducted IAO certified courses on pregnancy, nutrition, and women's health. The next slide, please. She's a student member of the Universal Society of Food and Nutrition and also the American Society of Nutrition. She has written numerous articles and content on topics such as pregnancy nutrition, a balanced diet with a food pyramid, food allergies in children and adults, and eating disorder, to name a few. The next slide, please. Ms. Emigrates has three publications at the moment, four research works accepted for publication, and one in preparation. She has volunteered at various levels and capacities in India, which encompasses community service, interviews, and many more. She's certified in industrial training of food microbiology techniques and is also a certified career counselor. She has won several award. I believe from that little citation, the caliber of person that will be talking to us today, and that's why you must avoid every distractions today. Just get the very best and build on all what you learn, all what you'll be learning today. So I will move to the next thing on our schedules. Now I'll be inviting the guest speaker on board, but before I do, please, I want to encourage you this time around. If you're having questions, just pen those questions down. Don't just unmute your mic and start to speak. Just pen down those questions, and when it is time for questions and answer, we are going to allow you to do that. And this time we'll be using the chat box. Just pen down your questions. Then when it is time for question and answer, you just type those questions there. Our guest speaker can see it, and she will definitely attend to those questions you'll be sharing. So let's get ready now. I'll be inviting our guest speaker for today without wasting much of our time, in person of Miss Emigrates. Miss Emigrates, you are here now.
Thank you, Sean, for those kind words and for the great introduction. And I hope all the participants will be having a good time, at least for the next 30 minutes or so. So you can probably take down notes, or I can also pass on the PPT which I've made, so that you don't have to get distracted by using your pen and paper. So let's start with the presentation. Okay, so is my screen visible?
Yes, yes, we can say.
Okay, great. Okay. So, precision nutrition itself is a very big topic, and I will be mostly focusing on gut health because that is my area of specialization in my PhD. So, to move in with it, what is precision nutrition? So, everyone responds to the diet and nutrition differently based on certain factors like genetics, genes, environment, exercise, microbiome, and health. So, artificial intelligence creates algorithms to predict individual responses to these diet. So, this is where technology integrates with nutrition and other factors which decides on your nutrition and health together to make a precise nutrition plan only for a particular person. So none of the diet plan or any health claims given to one person will be similar to the other person. So the algorithms become part of healthcare. So through the use of technology, we are implementing something called precision nutrition, which is nutrition for every individual's need. So now we will take a look at the elements to be integrated for precision nutrition. That is when a person is going to give you a precise nutrition plan or an activity plan to follow. What are the components that should be integrated to give you a precise nutrition plan? So you can see it is a whole lot of group which is involved here. First is your genetics, then comes your nutrigenomics, that is how nutrition interacts with your genes. Then the clinical and biochemical parameters, which is like a blood test and lipid parameters. Then you have a major component which is called the microbiome. Then your activity tracking, that is how active you are on a daily basis. Your meal timings, that is also called as chrononutrition. And then your meal content, what goes inside your meal which you eat every day. The metabolomics and the anthropometric data, dietary intake data, as well as your other personal data like your medications, your time of birth, the method of delivery, was it a C-section or a normal delivery, and all other family related history of medical conditions. So all these things, this great integrated component, all of these are put together to give you a precise nutrition plan or a precise lifestyle plan. So this is called a precision nutrition plan. So, as I told you, we will be majorly dealing with the gut microbiome, right? So, I feel this is one of the most important, aspect in precision nutrition because our gut microbiome varies from person to person. So, let us now look at what gut microbiome is. It is a collection of bacteria, archaea, viruses, fungi, and eukarya residing in the human intestinal tract, known as the gut microbiota. And it represents one of the most significant features contributing to physiological inter-individual variability. So it is never the same as how precision nutrition is never same for one person to another person. So you would have heard two terms. One is called gut microbiome and the other is called gut microbiota. So we most often, interlink these words and we use it as a synonym, but it is not actually true. So let us see what these two terms actually indicate. Microbiota and microbiome are two different words which are often, interchanged and used. So we will see what microbiota talks about. It is used to talk about the microorganism and it answers the question which microorganism or who is in there in your gut. Basically, the individuals, that is it a lactobacillus, is it a bifidobacterium? So it talks specifically about the individual microorganism present in your gut. Whereas the microbiome talks about what is inside of that particular microorganism, the factor, the genome or the factor which renders that particular function or it causes particular harm to a particular gut or the entire human body is what microbiome means. Basically all the functions it does. So this is the vast composition of that microbiota. Over 1 lakh, which is 100 million, 10 million billion microorganisms live in our intestines, and there are certain dominant, certain rare, and transient species. So these counts and the microbiome variety of microorganisms actually is indicated by all the lifestyle changes that a person undergoes throughout their lifetime. So a microbiome of a person keeps changing continuously every single day. So now let us move into gut microbiota across ages. That is how it is formed and what changes it undergoes under different lifestyle phases. So each one of us have a very unique microbiota like a fingerprint. So none of our fingerprints are same. Similarly, microbiota is also completely different from person to person. So, when a baby is born, the fecal and vaginal microorganisms transmitted by the mother during the vaginal delivery or the environmental microorganisms in case of a cesarean delivery induces the start of gut microbiota colonization. That is the type of microorganism that is going to be cultured and which is going to be grown in your gut microbiome for the rest of your life. So it takes around 3 complete years for the gut microbiota to build up, diversify, and stabilize. So the baby from 0 to 3 years is highly vulnerable to a lot of immune problems and infections because of this particular factor, because the microbiota of the baby takes around at least 3 years to be completely built, set up, and stabilized. So during adulthood, the composition is relatively stable until the age when it undergoes profound changes again to become slightly impoverished. So when you're an adult, the microbiome changes according to all the lifestyle factors. And when you become old, however healthy or however active you keep yourself, what you have been going through in your adulthood stage actually has a great hold. So anyway, your microbiome diversity keeps decreasing and its activity also decreases as your age increases. So this is a simple pictorial representation of how your gut microbiota evolves according to your age. That is, when in a baby, the children's microbiota varies from the age of 0 to 3. And in adult, until we are fully grown, the gut microbiota varies and then stabilizes. And in senior citizens, as we get older, the microbiota depletes progressively. So I've been talking about something called gut microbiota. I am going to now talk to you about its four major functions, which is very important for a person's health. So the first one is it promotes digestion by facilitating the absorption of nutrients. So even though you eat a very good balanced meal, when your microbiota is not good, or when the diversity of the microbiota is not immense, what happens is that these nutrients, even though they are passing through the stomach to the intestine, are not absorbed because your gut microbiota is very weak and poor. Second one is it helps the digestive tract to function properly. So in order to digest, all the food which you intake, and also when there are pathogens which are coming inside through your mouth, the gut microbiota plays a very important role by performing the function of enhancing your digestive property. The third one is it carries a barrier against pathogens and toxins. So this is also known as an immune barrier. So that's the reason when your gut microbiota is very healthy and active, you are completely immune to all other infections around you. And finally, it plays a defensive role in the development of the immune system. So this is the immune system which will protect us from all the foreign bodies which enter into our system or whenever we come in contact with any foreign substances. So what are the factors that affect gut microbiome? So as you can see in this pictorial representation, the gut microbiota is very complex, as how I showed the diversity of how a precision nutrition plan is done. Similarly, gut microbiota is affected by two different categories. One is known as the environmental signals and the other is dietary factors. So in environmental signals, any antibiotics or any medications which you take because of your health problem or other forms, either as supplements or as pills, those come under antibiotics and environmental signals. The other is the cold exposure, that is the heat, the cold, all the temperature changes. The second aspect is the diet, the amount of dietary fiber present in your particular diet. And the animal derived saturated lipids, which are not good for health, those are also they also have an impact on your gut microbiome as well as your dietary cholesterol intake. So when all these come into play and when your gut microbiota is not properly nourished and there are a lot of unhealthy lifestyle factors which you follow, what happens is that endotoxins, bile acids, the short chain fatty acids, trimethylamine, and other unknown factors may lead to different kind of diseases and problems which can impact on your adipose tissue, that is your fat tissues, your liver, your intestine, brain, cardiovascular system, as well as your lungs. So which means almost the entire body it impacts. So let us now look at the factors leading to gut dysbiosis. So gut dysbiosis means it is the disruption or the depletion of a good gut microbiome. So what influences the disruption of gut microbiome are hyperhygienic lifestyle, that is very highly hygienic people who keep using sanitizers every 1 second or every 1 minute. So those kind of hyperhygienic lifestyles actually suffer from gut dysbiosis. Then comes your stress levels, your alcohol consumption, your diet, as I've already explained, then the medications, that is your antibiotics and all other medications, the toxins, and vitamin D deficiency. So, when these missing microbes are found in your gut microbiome, it causes a dysbiosis. It can lead to food intolerance or allergies, inflammation, and immune effects. So, the impact of diet on gut microbiome. First is the dietary intake. So, if say the protein, what type of protein, fat, what type of fat, carbohydrates, simple or complex, polyphenols, prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics. So, all these, each of these particular food type has a different way of establishing the diversity of your microbiome. Second is the altered gut bacteria. So, based on the intake, it can either replenish the gut microbiome with healthy microorganisms or with unhealthy microorganisms. So, next is the biologic effects. It alters almost the entire host metabolism, your immune system production of pro and anti inflammatory metabolites. Fourth one is in the host, it causes diseases like cardiovascular disease, diabetes mellitus type 2, obesity, metabolic syndrome, autoimmune diseases, and all other diseases. So now we'll look into one of a very interesting research study which was done to show the impact of eating pattern and how it alters the gut microbiome. So many people had this doubt if eating influences the gut microbiome. So the latest research from the Microsetta Initiative, shortly called as TMI, in collaboration with Dan and Nutricia Research, reveals that the overall eating pattern, not just the individual foods or nutrients, matters to the gut as well as to your entire health. So the study discovered the differences in the overall eating patterns and the gut microbiota. The methodology adopted were 1,800 US adult population participants were taken into the study. The stool was collected and 16S sequencing was done, and the food frequency questionnaire was collected for data. So in this, they have identified five distinct eating patterns. In that, they were obtained from the food groupings and evaluated with the national dietary guidelines of the US. So in this, they have identified flexitarian diet, which involves all the different food groups as the best diet quality. Plant-based was followed by that, followed by a low carbohydrate diet, and health conscious Western diet. And the standard Western diet was deemed to be one of the worst diet quality. So the standard Western diet had low microbial diversity, and the individuals who consumed the standard Western diet had higher BMI, that is the body mass index, and low physical activity, as well as low plant diversity and fiber intake compared to the other eating patterns. Next is the flexitarian diet, which had high microbial diversity because it is deemed as one of the best diets. And knowing this, we can add to the growing evidence that higher the quality of your diet, the more diverse your gut becomes and the more healthier. So, this organization is continuing to explore the complex relationship between diet and lifestyle and its effect on the gut microbiome across the world's diverse populations. Next, we come to the types of specialized diet and the effects of those food derived metabolites on the central nervous system. So, as you see, high fiber diet increases all the good microorganisms, which is bifidobacterium, your eubacterium, lactobacilli, all these are increased. And this is one of the best because the food derived metabolites are used to cure inflammation as well as anxiety. Next comes the high fat diet. It is not as good as high fiber diet, but it is in the medium. So in this, what happens is that there is a decrease in certain good microorganisms as well as an increase in certain good microorganisms. So that's the reason it is effective for seizures, but it is not good for inflammation. And the next one is the red meat diet. where it only increases the bad microorganisms, whereas there is a drastic decrease in all the good microorganisms present in your gut microbiome. So this causes thrombosis and atherosclerosis, which are related to your heart. So in this, we can see the types of specialized diet. Eubiotic means a healthy gut microbiome. Dysbiotic means the one which has disease or which is not proper. So Mediterranean diet, which is a universally accepted best diet, is recommended because it involves all the fruits, vegetables to be eaten in a raw form or in a salad. And then you have the plant-based diet. So this increases the short-chain fatty acids, vitamins, polyphenols, indoles, and GABA. So this promotes your health. Whereas the Western diet, which we just saw, and the animal-based diet, they increase the amines, polyamines, hydrogen sulfate, methylphenols, all these which leads to disease promotion. So this ultimately leads to a dysbiotic microbiota. So next comes the specific bodily changes causing ill health. So as you can see, when a person is very fit, he has high diversity, high gene count, and high flexibility in his immune responses. Whereas when he becomes obese or there is certain changes in his microbiome, metabolites which are derived because of the microbiome, and the certain other host factors, that is the lifestyle factors, what happens is that there is low diversity, low gene count, and low flexibility. So this decreases the satiety, that is the hunger, the hunger feel, increases lipogenesis, inflammation increases, gut permeability increases, fat accumulation increases, inflammation increases, fatty acid oxidation, and insulin sensitivity decreases. So what happens is that it can result in cardiovascular disease, liver, atherosclerosis, that is heart, other heart diseases, and diabetes. So now we will see how gut microbiome actually plays a role in different conditions. First is for weight loss, that is obesity or underweight. And if you're obese, they're going for weight loss. So the factors that affects your weight loss is, first is your diet, second is your genetics, then comes your gut microbiome, economics, how much you can spend on food, and how much you can afford to buy healthy food, your behaviors, how often you track all your behaviors, the exercise, the medications you use, and the physical activity which you follow with the intensity and the duration. So now we will see how gut brain axis has its role. So it gut and brain are in constant communication through a sophisticated signaling system, and they play a very important role. So the gut brain communication is always a two-way and dynamic communication, and the gut microbiota can affect the brain in different ways, included by changing the actions of the enteric nervous system, neurons, and the vagus nerve. This was done on a rat, so altering bacteria in the mice's gut can dramatically change the behavior and the cognition, which is the mental ability of the mice. And short chain fatty acids produced by gut microbiota influences how brain cells develop and function in the mice. Then comes some probiotics which shows potential for influencing brain activity in the mice, in also influencing the healthy adults. And patients with several brain related conditions have been shown to have an altered gut microbiome and commonly experience a lot of gastrointestinal symptoms. So this is how gut and brain has a communication. So these are overall all the health factors, or the problems which can arise if your gut microbiome is not as good as it should be. So first is the anxiety, depression, which affects your cognitive properties. Then your autism, schizophrenia, Parkinson's disease, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis, bones, colon cancer, obesity, and diabetes. So all these are one of a few of the ill health or the conditions which can be seen if the microbiome is not good. And here on the other side, I have shown good and bad microorganisms. So there are almost more than 5,000 species of bacteria which lives in the gut. And some are termed as good, whereas the others are bad. So we'll see a few key microorganisms which are both good and bad. The bad one first is Helicobacter pylori. So it is most common bad bacteria and it causes ulcers. Next is a good bacteria called as lactobacilli. It may relieve us from stress and anxiety. Then comes the Methanobrevibacter, which is responsible for the majority of methane production. This is also a bad bacteria. Then comes Bifidobacteria, which is a good one. It effects are treating many intestinal conditions. Then Lactobacillus helveticus, it is associated with the reduction of anxiety and depression. And Bifidobacterium longum, which is also associated with reduced anxiety and depression. So now we move on to study number 2, which is done related to gut microbiome and PMS, which is also known as premenstrual syndrome or symptoms. So these are psychological and somatic symptoms which are experienced in the luteal phase of the menstrual cycle of every woman. So in this, some common psychological and somatic symptoms are, stomach cramps, anxiety, headaches, irritability, nausea, depression, breast pain, fatigue, and mood swings. So, in this study, they found that 99% of women of reproductive age experience at least one premenstrual symptom each month, and 15% reduced occupational productivity in women with premenstrual symptoms. So, as menstruation occurs between years of age 12 to 50 years, which is equal to 400 menstrual cycles where these symptoms appear. So the premenstrual symptom risk factors are, the first one is micronutrient intake. So calcium, vitamin D and B6 have therapeutic effects on certain premenstrual symptoms. The function of other micronutrients also remains understudied. So this is one field in which a person, anyone who's interested here, can probably try out when you get a chance to do research. And genetic variation in the serotonin transport promoter and estrogen receptor alpha genes have been linked to the occurrence of premenstrual symptoms. And the other factors, risk factors, are mental health, adiposity, age, and lifestyle of the person. As each female responds to diet differently, experiences different premenstrual symptoms as well. So, personalized nutrition based on the DNA or the gene can help to target specific premenstrual symptoms in different women and from different ethnicity. So, in this, the research has shown that the women with an increased risk of iron overload has a decreased risk of premenstrual symptoms such as fatigue, nausea, and confusion. So the next future directions from this particular research study we can take is personalized dietary interventions can cure premenstrual symptoms and provide you relief. So what to eat for a healthy gut microbiome? First is the prebiotics. So as our topic is related to functional foods, I would like to highly encourage the participants here to try and consume all the possible prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic foods, because pills and powders which are given for prebiotics or for postbiotics and probiotics are only recommended for people who cannot consume not natural foods. So the fresh foods will usually have a greater impact on your health. So prebiotics means live microorganisms that feed and nourish the healthy bacteria in the lower digestive tract. This relieves constipation, boosts immune system, helps prevent blood sugar spikes, And few sources are fermented and high fiber foods like garlic, onions, leeks, oats. Then comes the probiotics. So prebiotics feed the probiotics, and like live yeast and bacteria, which keeps you healthy. So the yeast and bacteria are consumed from the already existing prebiotics which you have consumed, and this is known as the probiotics. This also boosts immunity, improves your digestion, prevents or treats conditions such as diarrhea and irritable bowel syndrome. Some sources are, as I told, daily supplement of pills or powder can be the last resort for people who cannot or don't have access to fresh and healthy foods as listed, which can be yogurt, kefir, pickles, sauerkraut, and kombucha tea. Next is the postbiotics. So these are what remains once your body has completely digested the pre and probiotics. So postbiotics work to maintain your gut health and it reduces inflammation, which boosts overall wellness. So a few of them are buttermilk, cottage cheese, high fiber foods like oats, flaxseed, seaweed, and garlic, and fermented pickles. So, to have a good gut microbiome, we need to first know how to eat correct. So, we will be dealing on diet because I am basically a nutritionist. So, I will be giving you certain tips on how you can follow a healthy diet. So, the first important factor is although people eat healthy foods, they lack in one main factor, which is how much of that particular food they are supposed to eat at that particular time. So, this is one important factor which actually plays a great impact in replenishing your gut microbiome. So, you all would have heard something called calorie counting. So, instead of calorie counting on some app or any other formulas or anything which you use, you can try this portion size of foods using your hand. This is very easy for you to learn, and also you don't need any equipment to measure or to calculate it. So, your hand is proportionate to your body and its size never changes. So, it's always with you and it makes it the perfect tool for measuring the food and the nutrients with minimal counting required. So, if people might think only a nutritionist will know how to count the nutrients present in a particular size or the amount of food which you're consuming, whereas a normal person who does not know nutrition cannot stay or have a controlled portion size of each type of food. That's the reason I am teaching you one of the simplest methods of hand portion controlling tool. So the first one is a portion of protein which is equal to 1 palm. So you can see how the blue is indicated. So that much we are supposed to consume for one portion of protein. The next is a portion of vegetables which is one fist size, and a portion of carbs is equal to 1 cup hand. A portion of fats includes or is equal to 1 thumb. So your fat intake, if it's in a thumb size, it means you're taking one portion of fat. So next is the easy ways to customize your hand portions. So if you need more food on your plate because you are not feeling satisfied at meals, that is, you're still feeling hungry and you feel that you have not had enough food, then eating fewer meals throughout the day, that is, you skip meals or you take only 3 meals and then not getting muscle gain results, especially for people who want to gain muscles. What you can do is then you can start by adding 1 cup handful of carbohydrates and or 1 thumb of fat. So to a few meals in a day, for a total of 2 to 3 additional portions, you can add these portion sizes to your meal every day. What happens if you need less food on your plate because you feel very full or you're satiated by the end of your or in the between of your meals, eating more meals throughout the day and you're not getting weight loss results? Then what happens is that you should start removing 1 cup handful of carbohydrates and or 1 thumb of fat. So from a few meals for a total of 2 to 3 fewer portions each day can be consumed. This will help you to track your weight loss, or if you want muscle gain, it can also help you to track your muscle gain. So first, we will be dealing about why is it easy to eat junk foods rather than taking in healthy foods. So the marketing tricks make processed foods seem very good for you. So we can see take a break, Kit Kat. So phrases like take a break and you're worth it, they tap into our need for self-care. Then comes the bright colors with cartoon images or characters and celebrities with positive associations. So those are also, they grab our attention, although they are not healthy for us. The next is buzzwords like organic foods or vegan foods or gluten-free foods. They also create an illusion of health. So you feel vegan ice creams do not give you so much of calories. You feel gluten-free cookies are very good for health. So that's what happens when people see these claims and they get carried away by these claims. This is why processed foods are most often picked by a lot of people. But no one actually reads the nutrition facts. So in reality, often there is very little nutritional difference between organic treat and conventional one. So if you see an organic macaroni and cheese and a normal macaroni and cheese nutrition facts or the nutrition panel, if you see, there will not be much of a difference. The next one is big portions convince us that we are getting a very good deal for the money we pay. So with processed foods, you're often getting more volume and more calories. That is, you get discount offers, you get buy one get one free offers when you go in for all these processed foods. Whereas when you go in for healthy foods, you get very less portion size. So obviously people will want to choose the higher portion size, a lot of discounts, a lot of buy one get one free, or three people can eat and the fourth one is absolutely free. So all these are tricks or the tools which they use to convince customers to choose an unhealthy option. Next is the variety makes us want more. So when we have lots of different tastes to choose from, we have lots of appetite, and it comes to processed foods, the options are endless. So if you see towards my left, harder to overeat because it's only one single fruit like apple, and the other side it is easier to overeat because a variety of flavors and textures to amuse you are present. The next one is now after we know how deliciousness gets manufactured, we will be using these strategies to build awareness on the behavior which we actually represent, or the way we choose our foods from next time when we go for shopping. So you have to notice your chewing. It is very easy to overeat when food is very easy to chew. So fun experiment was conducted to compare how many chews it takes to swallow processed foods versus whole foods. So in the case of processed foods, less than or equal to 10 chews are enough to get it into your stomach, whereas when it comes to whole foods it takes around 25 chews, which means people would like to keep eating more and not to chew much. So that's the reason they go in for processed foods. Second is to evaluate your pantry. So to change the way your grocery shopping goes and how what you eat, first you should first become aware of what kinds of food you are going to buy and why you are buying those foods. So how many junk foods marketed as healthy foods can you find? How many celebrity endorsements can you see on those food packs? What self-care promises do they actually give? Certain health claims, and you can list the number of treat foods you have in your kitchen. So the next one is you look for a habit pattern. So habits are very powerful for better or worse. So when we have a habit of using food for reasons other than physical hunger, it can lead to overeating. So the first one is the trigger. So automatically you start eating your food, which is your behavior, and then your reward is seen. So, first identify your triggers. So, a trigger can be a feeling any time of the day that you want to eat, any social setting like gatherings, or any place like in theaters, parks, or through pattern itself. That is, when you are on the phone or when you're on work, you keep eating. So, when you have the urge to overeat, you should just ask a few questions to yourself. That is, what am I feeling? What time is it that feeling is coming inside me? Who am I with? Where am I? And what thoughts am I having? So, when you ask these questions, you will automatically be conscious about what you're eating and your choice of food. The fourth one is find feel good habits that support your goals. So, once you know that your triggers disrupt the cycle of your normal dietary pattern, you should first identify the trigger, try to avoid those triggers when you consume, and then reward yourself. So, by replacing eating with an activity that supports your goals is encouraged, because some people tend to eat when they have no other work or when they don't have any hobbies to engage with. So, exercising, playing sports, reading, listening to music, praying or attending religious services, spending time with friends and family, getting a massage, working outside, meditation, yoga, creative hobbies can help. So, next is the put quality above quantity. So, processed foods use cheap ingredients and making it possible to sell large quantities at a low price. So, whole foods provide high quality nutrition and you only pay once. So, whereas on the other side, jumbo sizes might seem like a deal because they offer high quantity, but eventually you may pay a health tax in the form of fat gain, metabolic problems, and poor health. So you can consider this when you are trying to opt for processed foods, because you are going to pay only once for your healthy food. Whereas when it comes to processed food, you will pay for the processed food, you will get sick, you will pay the medication bills, you will go to the hospital. So all those extra expenses incurs because of your processed foods. So you can use the traffic light system to put quality first. So make your own list of red, yellow, and green light foods. First is red foods that are no, not at all, it should not be consumed. So that you tend to overeat, makes you feel sick, or it doesn't help you to meet your goals, are all classified as red foods. Next is the yellow foods that aren't the worst choices, but if you eat too much of them, you might have regrets because you might be paying visits to the hospital. Whereas the green foods are nutritious and it makes your body and mind feel good. You can eat these whenever you want, but also in the right proportions. So your list may be unique to you. That is, chocolate chip cookies might be red for you, but green for your friend. So it's the way how a person sees a particular food or how they feel. The next is slow down. So if changing the foods you eat actually makes you a little panicked, or you feel that diet is always healthy but it does not have good options, or it is not having a lot of variety, then you should slowly allow yourself to eat whatever you want, but start eating mindfully. So sit at the table and use real dishes. Eat in a calm environment with no disturbances like phones or laptops or TVs. Put your utensils down between bites. Set aside at least 20 minutes per meal. Choose whole fiber rich foods that takes time to chew. Eat to at least 80% full. So you're not advised to eat 100% full. Then the final one is be nice to yourself. So self criticism and crash dieting may work in the short term, but it reduces your goals on the longer term. And approach your overeating with honesty, kindness, and curiosity. So there are certain ways you can eat on a healthy budget. That is nutrient rich, nutrient poor foods. You can probably look at the portion sizes of those foods, so that it will be easier for you to understand that in a particular food you'll be taking only one portion per day. That is your recommended dietary allowance. So in that case, you have 100 portions in that packet, which is costing a little high, whereas you have another food which has 100 portions, and at least 10 portions should be consumed in a day, which means within 10 days it will be over. Whereas the first one can stay for 100 days. So you need to prioritize the nutrients which you want to eat and the portion size for the value of money. So if you can see here, instead of buying it from a restaurant or a grocery, if you make it from scratch at home with all the healthy ingredients, it costs you much less. Then pre-prepare your meals so that you know and you're not in a hurry to grab some processed food in the time of your work or your activity time. Rather, you just plan your meals, you pre-prepare and you keep so that it's almost ready and it is available for you to eat. You should become a savvy shopper. So most cost effective places are run by your own friends or relatives or locality people. So most cost effective foods you can check out which are much healthier, and you can try out those options. And also, as I told, consider the unit cost. That is, if there are 30 servings in that particular pack, which means one serving costs $1. And avoid your food wastage. Plan before you shop. Learn how to preserve your foods properly and eat only how much ever you can and take how much you can eat. So the final one is how you can control your diet is through mindful eating, and these pointers helps you to actually follow a healthy diet to replenish your microbiota, and which impacts your health on the longer run. You should prepare to eat a particular food, breathe and relax, notice what is on your plate, chew thoroughly, eat very slowly, stop when you're full, do not take because your food will get wasted, but you're supposed to be concerned about your health more than the money which is getting wasted by those few portions left. And finally, make eating a separate activity. Don't take it along with classes or when you're doing another activity. Don't make it as a side activity. Make that as a separate activity on itself. So finally, as we can see, health is a complex structure, and it is made up of a lot of factors. So it is in our hands to maintain it well so that we can have good, healthy gut microbiome as well as an healthy body overall, free from all other diseases. So with this, I complete my presentation for today.
All right, thank you very much. Many thanks to our guest speaker for that wonderful presentation. Please, we're in the period of question and answer. We're actually having some question based on a presentation. There's a time of question and answer. You can drop them in the chat box now so she can, attend to your questions. So this is the time of question and answer. Please, if you're having any question, just type it in the chat box now so that she can attend to your question. We're looking forward to some of our questions. Please just type your questions pertaining to what she has just presented to us. You can use the chat box to ask your question, and if you are willing, you want to ask, using the mic, the audio, something, you can raise your hand so I can give you the permission to ask your question in person. Please, let's take notes of that. Okay, there's a notification there. Drop your questions in the chat box. Okay, while we're waiting, okay, somebody actually raised a hand. Mr. Chris Ezekiel, you can ask your question. Just unmute yourself and ask your question. Mr. Chris, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. We appreciate our lecturer on the topic. So my question I want to ask now is on the, because there is a link between depression and metabolic syndrome. Because I was reading a journal last week, and I was trying to read how depression actually induce metabolic syndrome, disorder rather, metabolic disorder or syndrome, which can initiate cardiovascular diseases like hypertension, atherosclerosis, because higher expression of enzyme that promotes the synthesis of fats that resulted to increase in cholesterol. So in the situation whereby somebody is undergoing depression, how can the patient modify
Hello, Chris.
their
I
food?
think
Like,
that
how
you are
can they
not
actually
clearly
modify their
audible from
food
my side.
in order to caution those effects of depression on a patient? I don't know whether my question is clear.
Chris, your
Hello?
question was not clearly audible to me. I think there is some network problem, so I'm not able to hear a few words from what you were trying to tell me. If you could probably type it in the chat box, it will be a little easier for me to understand the entire question.
Yep.
Thank you so much for taking your time to ask this question.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chris, you can ask your question in the chat box. We found it to hear you very well. Me, Semi Grace, we have some questions in the chat box. You can attend to
Yes.
them now.
Okay, so coming to Mr. Sunday, his question: can hotness or coldness of the food we take affect the gut microorganisms? Yes, 100%, because all microorganisms have their unique temperatures at which they survive. So, not only the bad microorganisms as well as the good microorganisms. So, when you're exposed to a temperature much hotter or much colder than the organism can survive, it may kill or it may reduce the impact of that microorganism. So it 100% has an effect on the hotness or coldness of the food which you intake.
Mr. Sunday, is your question answered correctly before she moves to the next question? Me, Semi Grace, we can move to the next question.
Okay, so there's a question from Niveda which states that from your presentation, I'm sure to say that gut microbiome also has a role on PCOS. So my viewpoint on this, yes, sure, Niveda, it does have a role on PCOS because, as you know, obesity, diabetes are all a factor which can be controlled or which can be caused due to your imbalance in the gut microbiome. So these are the major factors which actually causes PCOS, and so PCOS is also indirectly one of the condition which the gut microbiome paves way when the gut microbiome is not healthy. I hope your question is cleared.
Yes, you can always respond at the chat box. I guess we can move to the next question. If anybody is having anything, they can always use the chat box. We can move to the next
Okay.
question.
Okay, so there's another person who has asked a question about kindly explain the hand measuring method for what portion of food to consume. That the way you are asking is how you can make it of a daily use or into a daily practice. Okay, so as I told you, a hand full, okay, a cupped handful can be used for carbohydrates, because I have shown that particular diagram with the entire depiction, so that it will be much easier for you to understand. So I'll just share my screen once more so that it will be more clear for you to understand how portion sizes using your hand can be much more easier and effective. So, okay. So in this, if you can see, a portion of protein equals to one palm. That is only the area inside blue color. Whereas for vegetables, you can take one fist. That is the area inside green color. A portion of carbohydrates is your cupped hand. The area inside orange color, and the portion of fats is your thumb, which is in yellow color. And thumb, in the sense, it accounts to around 15 grams, which is 1 tablespoon, we call probably in the Indian method. So I am not aware of how you classify your portion sizes, but these are taken from the WHO point of view. So I hope your question is clarified. You can use your hands in different shapes and forms to set your portion sizes for different food groups to consume it regularly. So as per your RDA or recommended dietary allowance in your country or your place, you can see how much portion sizes of a particular food group you're allowed to consume, and based on that, you can measure using your hand.
Great, thank you for that response. You can let's move to the next question because of our time.
Okay. So the next one is, in the case of gastrointestinal inflammation, how does probiotics help in alleviating it? Okay, so in gastrointestinal inflammation, inflammation causes because of the improper meal habits, as well as the microorganisms which are not good enough, or which gives way to a lot of other bad organisms to affect or invade your microbiome. So in that case, the first response it shows is inflammations and pain or redness. So the recommended prebiotic for gastrointestinal inflammation is, as I've told, you can have garlic, you can have oats, you can have. They are very good prebiotics, and it is very good for gastrointestinal inflammations as well.
You can move to the next question.
Yes, yes, okay. So depression is a link to metabolic disorder, cardiovascular disease, and hypertension. What is the role of foods and how it will affect the uh, okay, how will it affect depression? Okay, so I wanted to tell, functional foods are something which is natural food only. They have something called a bioactive component, which gives the function of that health component in our body. So that is the reason it is called as a functional food. So depression is, yes, linked to metabolic disorder, cardiovascular diseases, and hypertension. So functional foods which you can take are, as I told, the foods which are rich in lactobacillus, which is actually good for depression, for anxiety. They are lactobacillus is very rich in yogurt, so you can probably take that. Sauerkraut, all these have good lactobacillus content, and lactobacillus is very effective to control depression, which links to other conditions. I hope I have answered your question as well.
You can respond on the chat box. I think that question should be answered. If you're still having a question, you have the opportunity to ask your question now before we round up this section. you're having any other question, you can quickly type them in the chat box so that she can attend to the questions. I believe we're not having any questions at the moment. So on that note, we'll be closing that section, and we are coming to the end of the webinar. Many thanks to all that have contributed to the success of this webinar, and many thanks to our guest speaker and person, Miss Amy Grace, all the way from India. But before I round up the whole webinar today, I would like to invite the founder of Gr8t Biotek Institute. I believe he has one or two things to tell us and to pass across to us. Mr. Yemi, you're on, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Can everybody hear me, please? Can you hear me, please? I need
Yes,
your
I can
voice.
hear you from my end.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Shion, the HUD Industrial and
Yes,
Food
we can.
Biochemistry. Thank you very much, Ms. Amy Grace, for your wonderful presentation and honoring our invitation. Thank you so very much. We thank you on the behalf of all the executives of Gr8t Biotech Institute and the members. We say a very big thank you to you. And then for all our members, all our people from our social media who have deemed it fit to join us in this webinar, we hope that all of us can go home today with something that we have learned from the webinar, precision food and functional food. But before I hand over the microphone back to the moderator, I would like to say some few things here before I hand over the microphone. You're welcome once again to Gr8t Biotech Institute, an institute vetted out of our passion to train and to groom young scientists in the field of biological and biomedical sciences. And then at Gr8t Biotech Institute, we have 5 departments that cut across the field of biological science. And why do you have to choose Gr8t Biotech Institute? You need to choose Gr8t Biotech Institute because here we are trying to build the bridge between senior researchers and then young upcoming researchers in this field. So, and then we tend to learn from reputable seasoned researchers, as we have learned this evening from Miss Amy Grace all the way from India. So this is how we do it here. We are bridging the gap between young scientists and the veterans in this field in Nigeria and also in Africa at large. And then we are open for collaboration. We are open for collaboration, for partnership, and partnership, fundings. Gr8t Biotech Institute are reaching out our tentacles across our social medias and those who are on LinkedIn. Please, the LinkedIn link will be on the chat box. You can follow us on LinkedIn with our upcoming editions of our webinars, in which seasoned researchers will also be here. So we are on Twitter, we are on Telegram, and other social media, and so we are open for collaboration, as I've said it earlier on. And then we'll be very glad if we have you with us here at Gr8t Biotech Institute. Once again, I want to thank the presenter, Miss Emmy Grace. Thank you so very much for taking your time out to join us all the way from India. It's a pleasure having you around. And over to the HOD.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to the participants.
Over to the moderator.
A very big thanks to you, Mr. Yemi, and we want to appreciate all the participants who have made it to this webinar. It's such, a promising time with our guest speaker today. I believe we have learned one or two things. Let us try to build on some of these things we have learned. Don't just leave them, Let's take time to build on it. Let's research more. Let's see how we can, improve on some of the things we have learned here, and that's how we can grow. We need researchers who are willing to bring solutions to some of the problems that are facing the world now, that are facing our regions, that are facing our communities, that are facing our country. And how can we do this? We can do this by building up some of the things we have acquired. Some of us have learned a lot in schools. Some of us have learned a lot from people. But when you bring some of these things together, to solve a problem. That's how we can impact our world. So on this note, I would like to appreciate our guest speaker, and I would also like to appreciate all the participants who have, taken time to attend this webinar. It's such a beautiful one, having each and every one of you around. You can actually, check out the Institute's page on LinkedIn. Just search Gr8t. You can see the correct how to write. When you are searching, don't make the mistake. It's not, don't write the normal Gr8t. We all know this is Gr8t, then words Biotek Institute. And there you can always follow us on some of the activities we'll be having subsequently. So it's such a beautiful one having each and every one of you around. And on these notes, we'll be drawing the curtain for this month's webinar. We hope and believe next time we have the opportunity to come. So by next month, God willing, we'll be having another event at the Institute, just to keep in touch with the Institute, some of our contacts, and you'll get to know about some of our activities here. So on this note, I want to say a very big thanks to everyone, and we'll be closing the webinar now. Thank you very much. God bless you all.